a special guest, Brett Townsley, with me from Omniscient Safety Innovations. I'm pleased I said that properly. And Chameleon. So, Brett, how are you doing?
I'm very good, Matt. Thank you. I'm very good. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to have you, and thanks for jumping in. Before we sort of wax lyrical, I'll just explain a little bit about Veterans Voice for those people that are joining us. So basically, a bunch of veterans. We give you the stories of our military service and what we've done since then and how we've got into the roles we are. A few nuggets of wisdom imparted your way, just to give you an idea that it's not just close protection and project management. So feel free to say hi and pop some notes in the comments, because it is live, and if there's any questions, we'll try and answer them. So before we go into the proper thing, hi Dan, here's a previous veteran. Before we go into anything, pirate hunting, tell me about that. Did you have a parrot?
Sounds proper Jack Sparrow, doesn't it?
It does.
I mean, you know, I was with the air crew, so I was part of the flight on board some of the ships. Pirate hunting operations, really deterrent more than anything else. You know, patrol the area, get in the air before any of the potential pirates boarded ships, and try and chase them off before it became anything, was really our role in it.
So did you catch any?
Well, I think catching would be probably pretty tough. By the time we got there, most of the time they were already either had left the area or had completed what they were planning on doing anyway. And it becomes much more complex in terms of boarding when there are civilians on board, and you know, so it was really about deterrent. I didn't get the chance to meet Jack Sparrow. No, unfortunately.
No pieces of 8 or anything like that. No gold. Plenty of rum.
Pieces of 8. No parlay.
Yeah.
No. What you know, we always like a drink on board boats.
Well, do you know, you mentioned the pirate hunting, but you've got a little bit of a vice, haven't you? To do with buried treasure.
Oh, right, okay. Well, I am a bit of a Jack Sparrow pirate, treasure hunter myself.
Got to come clean here. Nothing hidden.
This is probably a proper confession. You know, I should be in the confessional box at this moment. I metal detecting. I'm a metal detectorist, if you like. So I do go out looking for treasure. And much like the old catching the pirates, I've never actually found any treasure yet either, Matt. And you know, a tin of 7-Up, a couple of bolts, rusty bolts, and things like that is the best I've come up with so far. But yeah, that is like probably my dark secret in terms of hobbies. The one that I like to pretend I'm not really into, the really geeky thing.
It's like the thrill of the chase, is it?
Thrill of the chase and catching nothing, absolutely nothing.
And before, hang on, Dan's popped in with a question, which I'll bring up in a minute. But before anybody extracts the urine out of metal detecting, you're also a boxer.
Yeah, so I've done a bit of boxing, and I did when I left the forces as well. I joined up and tried a little bit of kickboxing and mixed martial arts as well. So I like combat sports. So I guess if I did have to, you know, for metal detectors for the treasure, I think, you know, I've got some good weapons in my locker.
That's it. So, that's my engagement ring that I found.
That tin of 7-Up is definitely mine. You know, and I can stand my ground on that. So
Dan wins the prize here. Oh yeah, that
was it, Matt.
So Dan wins the prize here for bad joke of the day. So why are pirates called pirates? Because they are. So before we actually go on to the proper show, let's just say hello to some of the people. So we've got Dan here who said hello. So Dan is a previous Veterans Voice. We've got Gordon Forbes. Now he's coming through a paired link, so I'm presuming he's through your link. So I'm presuming you know Gordon, because I don't know Gordon.
No Gordon.
We've got John Curry. So evening, John.
Evening, John.
And we have Richard. So,
Hey, Richard.
yeah. So where did you lose them? I'm sure he'll help you. And then we have Paula Massey. Welcome, Paula. She's lost a ring
Paula.
too. Yes, yeah. So you're in the right place. So DM him afterwards, and
Yeah.
I'm sure a nip of rum, and he'll be down there looking for it.
Just write in a dodgy treasure map, and I'll be there. I'll be.
Indeed, excellent.
I'll be right there.
The spot. There was a little bit of a hair there. So let's just give us a bit of background into your military career.
So Fleet AR. So I am what the rest of the senior service would refer to as a WAFU. So I was in flight crew. Yeah, they have lots of lovely terms for my role in the forces. So I was with the Fleet Air Arm, the helicopter crews, based out of Yeovilton primarily, some jungly squadrons and things, and then pirate hunting with on board HMS Kent. Even Jason, HMS Kent did some on Ark. Was on the Ark Royal. And then did some work for Intelligence Exploitation Force out in Afghanistan. And then back to the wonderful Bonnie, Scotland after that.
And into oil and gas. I've been on the Ark Royal and Illustrious and Invincible as well. Sort of I had to look at all the holes in the bulkheads in terms of the ones they intended to put through and make sure that they're put through properly.
There's lots of unintended ones.
There's lots of them. It's all right, we can say that because they've sold them now. So hi to John as well. John's all the way from Australia, so we're truly global tonight. So what made you decide to leave the armed forces?
Well, after Afghanistan, when I came back, I mean, much like most of the veterans probably on here will know, you go from one drafting to the next. So you're looking for your next posting, drafting, whatever terminology you want to use. So when I was out on operations in Afghan, I had been told that the squadron I was with, which was a fixed wing squadron at the time, the Harriers up in Cottesmore on an RAF base, strangely enough, it had been disbanded. So I had to look for a new drafting at that time. Spoke to draftee. There wasn't much in the way of anything exciting. They talked about getting me into some of the recruitment stuff in terms of sort of actually getting out into the fields with the events and those types of things, which sounded a little bit more exciting. That wasn't to be. I ended up in Dundee Careers office, and Dundee, I hope there's nobody from Dundee watching, but that's probably the most dangerous place I've ever been. So forget Afghanistan and the pirate hunting and everything else. Dundee, we had some exciting adventures, just people coming into the recruitment office in Dundee, to be fair. So, but it wasn't what I signed to do. It was tough going, Matt. So it didn't look like I was going to be getting anything soon. Voluntary redundancies were coming up. My wife she was from England, so she'd moved all the way up to Dundee with me at the time, and we had a choice, and we decided that I could probably do better out on Civvy Street.
Yeah, and just before we go on there, Andrew Slesser, whom we both know, metal detectors, Andrew, don't detect hair. Just so you know. So
if it did, Andrew, I could make a fortune. I tell you,
a fortune. Yeah. I've got a few bits missing. So you're a bit soul destroying. You decide to come out, and so where did you make your first move? Where did you work?
Well, I mean, I'm Aberdeen born and raised, so everybody within my social network, my peer groups, my family were all involved in oil and gas, the energy sector. So, me joining the forces was kind of outside of the normal. I decided that I wanted to try and get into the offshore industry. And the first place that I ended up was working as an emergency response coordinator for an organization. It was only short term. I was only there sort of 6 months. Did a presentation in front of some people at Wood Group, and that sort of led to the next career.
Right. So yeah, in the door, the network was already there. So really important, and a message to anyone leaving the armed forces is use your network. If you don't have a
Yeah,
network, then when you press the button to leave, you've got about a year to go. Start creating that network straight away, so that you can start to do the networking later on. So network is really, really important.
absolutely.
How was transition?
Well, I mean, I guess transition in terms of having a plan was not great because I didn't really have one. You know, I was under the assumption that I could simply transition over into the oil and gas industry and you know, suddenly be making lots of money without really having any skill set or particular knowledge in that industry. So I the network, as you say, is key. You know, start building that before you leave, but you have to have the knowledge and understanding of what you're going to do and the plan to go with it. I didn't really have that. I went to the careers transition workshops, and for most of them, I was kind of there just sort of saying, look, just get me offshore, put me in touch with an oil and gas company, and I'll go offshore and I'll make a living. And that was kind of the question mark point. Doing what? Well, anything. Well, all of your skill set from the Navy will not necessarily transition directly over into the oil and gas industry. So what can you do? There was a very nice lady there at the careers transition, and she sort of said, well, I think what you need to do is build on the foundations of what you've got. You know, you come from a survival background. There is clear links to the health and safety sector within that. Why don't we build that skill set out for you? And they got me involved with NEBOSH. I did my NEBOSH. I did some auditing courses, all through transition workshop, and it just built the profile and the skill set to go along with the ambition, the dream, the goal, and that gave me the ability then to knock on the doors and say, actually, it's not just me turning up and saying I want to go make money offshore. I've actually got a skill set that I can add to the workforce.
Absolutely. And we think, after discussing last night, that this lovely lady that gave you that brilliant advice was actually Trish Mullen, and a connection of mine, and who has now left CTP and provides a little bit of guidance for veterans as well. So lovely lady, Trish.
Yeah.
I know she's not here tonight because she told me she couldn't, because I rang her up and said, right, get on here because I think we've got a mutual connection here.
Yeah.
She said I can't make it, so she's going to do us on catch up anyway. So hi, Trish. Yeah. So you did a bit of contract, or you started off as staff, and then you moved into a contract, didn't you?
Yeah. So I was very fortunate at the time when I moved into Wood, because they were doing a quick development program for ex-forces and police fire brigade. So there was a member of the police force, there was myself from the armed forces, and there was somebody from the fire brigade. And the idea was to help transition, service personnel into health and safety sector. So we went through a very accelerated program in HSE. I very quickly started to run my own contracts within the sector as staff. Moved up the ladder quite quickly, moved into a variety of different roles, both in service and operators. And eventually it got to the point where I decided to go contractor and launched my own business and went contracting for the first time, which was towards the end, after I'd done sort of regional management roles, Africa, Middle East kind of positions within organizations. And then I set up on my own as a contractor.
And this is a really good bit of advice to people leaving the armed forces as well, is get that experience under your belt as staff, and then if you do want to run your own business, then you've got that experience, and you've got the nous from doing lots of things, that lots of experiences from the armed forces. So this is Omniscient Safety Innovations that you set up. Yeah. So what are they about?
Well, so again, my career within the oil and gas or energy sector was health and safety. But what I found was many investigations and incident investigations that I would conduct, I would find causes or certainly factors that were mental health or stress, depression, anxiety, how somebody was thinking that was affecting how they were feeling and behaving, which could then lead to the accident. You know, almost human factors, but to the nth degree, if you like. On a few occasions, I raised this within organisations, and you know, as is standard, was pretty much told, well, actually, the reason why this has happened is because that person didn't follow the procedure. But there's a reason they didn't follow the procedure, right? You know, so after ending multiple attempts to try and highlight mental health as a real safety factor, I decided to try and raise it on my own. And we did some research with Bath University. You know, could we determine and identify the links of mental health impacts that created harm in the workplace, which again is a legal obligation, whether it's physical or mental health. We did that. We did a research and development phase while I was contracting. And then once we completed that phase, we decided to just launch the business on its own rather than simply me contracting for other organizations. And so OSI is essentially a mental health harm prevention organization. We look at the risk, the way that mental health harm or stress, depression, anxiety is created within your workplace, figure out where it's coming from, and then start to reduce the likelihood of it happening to your workforce so that they never become stressed, depressed, or anxious to the point where they're ill or they have an accident that costs the business or high absenteeism.
It's a lot more than I had the accident because I'm a bit stressed and my mind's not on the job. It goes a lot deeper than that.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's, you know, the accidents are tragic and they shouldn't happen. But accidents, health and safety record of businesses is looked at when people are considering contracts. It also has an effect on the brand of the organisation if they have that. So they have to do something to make sure that their workforce is being looked after. But it's also the good thing to do as well.
Yeah, like you say, Matt, reputationally, it's valuable for the organisation. It's valuable in terms of cost because of absenteeism, staff turnover, you know, the quiet quitting phenomenon, people disengaging and just shutting down. All those types of things play into it.
Yeah, and so do you have any examples that you can give, or is that a little bit too
in terms of
the sort of things that you've been doing, projects that you've been doing?
Yeah, so we work with. I will. I'll try and avoid dropping names in, but so we work with several of the major energy companies globally, and we design systems for them that help their people to not only talk about it in terms of what's affecting them, but then to report and understand it. So we've got a couple of companies that we've been working with for the last few years who have now seen significant reduction in terms of staff turnover, but also reporting in terms of work-related stress, depression, and anxiety. Initially, we saw big increases as people became more comfortable about reporting those types of things, but we've seen significant drops. And we have done work and project work for marine organisations, certain councils within Scotland. We've worked for a few of those as well, and again seen significant changes in not only the culture but the reporting systems that they use as well.
Yeah, there's some fascinating stuff going on now. This chap you need to have a contact with. I mean, he's a Burritonean as well, but have a chat with John. John is in Australia, but I can say this now: he is coming back to Scotland next year.
John and I have talked a few times.
Have you?
Good bloke.
He's a nice chap, and funny story about. That didn't mean I nearly blocked somebody there. Sorry. John and I actually, I know John's brother, and I didn't know
Oh.
John. John was over this side, so I know John's brother, and my wife knew his sister-in-law, and they rode horses together. How bizarre is that?
It's a small world, right? It's a small world.
It indeed is indeed, especially now. So, and that led on to Chameleon, which is something else.
Yeah. So Chameleon is essentially the software AI side of what we do as OSI. So Chameleon is a system that can be adapted for any organization and embedded into the culture, which will help to identify the root causes, but also work with each one of your staff individually to support their specific needs, because obviously mental health is different to every individual. So the types of needs and wants, and it will support by providing them the right types of interactions to help them get to the right places. We named it Chameleon because of the chameleon effect. So there is a psychological phenomenon known as the chameleon effect, which simply means that in particular types of social settings, much like a workplace, your expectations that are placed on you subliminally, so the idea that, you know, you must turn up to work and be happy and be smiley and not have problems that are coming from home, is almost transferred to each individual within the workplace. And therefore, when you come in, that's exactly what you present back. So when you socially interact with someone at work, how are you doing? Yeah, I'm fine. The reality is they're probably not, because they're all experiencing different impacts. But we say that and we present that back because of the chameleon effect. So Chameleon is about sort of ripping down that mask that people apply when they go to work in social settings, and communicating with them in a way that helps to understand their own mental health experience in the workplace and provide the right types of solutions.
And that's really important, because the word fine is another 4-letter F word that usually means that people aren't fine. So Dan's raised a question here. Have you found that the personality of those in the chain of command has as much impact on mental health as workload or external pressures?
Great question, Dan. So what we very often find is that we'll call it peer support or management supervision, leadership, whatever you want to, very much can have an impact on mental health. There are very specific root causes that reoccur and are the most common types of things that cause mental health harm at work. And leadership or failure of leadership is actually one of those. I think that, you know, it's strange. I'm going to quote Will Smith here, and it's not going to be from Men in Black, but he was on an interview the other night, and I just caught it, and I know he did the whole kind of Oscar slap thing, but he said something that I thought was really good. He said, you know, hurt people, and he's right. It tends to be that people that apply significant pressure to others underneath them, excessive pressure, are normally the people who are experiencing excessive pressure from somewhere else. So if you're experiencing it externally in life, you may well take it into work and apply it to your workforce. If you're experiencing it from, you know, the board, and then you apply it down to mid-level or senior management from there on. So it is about changing the culture so that everybody from top to toe, not just your boots on the ground, but the entire structure understands what mental health looks like, what excessive pressure looks like, and the impact of mental health, so that you can manage it appropriately. And
that's a really good quote. Hurt people, because it's normal to them. Interesting, and it's a cultural thing.
Who'd have thought we'd be quoting Will Smith, right? But I thought
we're not going to burst into a rap. That'll have to.
I could do if you like. I'll get the metal detector out, and we can do a whole thing.
Yeah. Maybe we'll save that for another day.
Okay.
So talk to me about the Chameleon. What you're doing now? You're talking about gamification and stuff, weren't you? For the last night, for when we had the scoping session, about gamification and using this for children as well.
Yeah, so right now, Camellia is a business to business system. We use it to embed OSI's management systems into a software system that allows the business to see what mental health looks like, but also to manage it for the individuals. But our next level up is we want to gamify that to keep people engaged, so that really where we want them to be is not using it only when they're ill, but using it in advance of becoming ill, or using it in advance of becoming stressed, so that what we can start to do is really take the benchmarking and monitor the changes in an individual, because that's how we're going to determine when someone's really experiencing something that's very, very harmful, is significant changes around those three key elements. So we want to gamify it. We have a junior version, which we want to get out there for children. You know, I've got a 5-year-old daughter, and you know, sometimes she flips out, and I have no idea or comprehension why. You know, I'm kind of going, but we were good 2 minutes ago, you know. But something's happening for her, and if I can start to understand that and interact better with her, so I know how to approach those things, it's going to help me to be better at parenting her, but it's also going to help her to develop better skills in how to manage mental health as she grows. So we've got a junior version, which has been in development. We've been working with some people at the University RGU, and we want to really gamify that one as well, and turn that into something that children can use, but parents can access to understand what's going on with our children as well.
That's really good. It's almost like I remember years ago on The Simpsons, Homer Simpson invented a baby translator, and it is finding out. That's a bit daft, but it's finding out what's going through their mind so that you can help them out, because they don't necessarily at that stage have the vocabulary to explain it.
Can't communicate it, and and you know, we've developed systems that can help us to be able to interact with them in a way that makes it more accessible for them to talk about those types of things. So we're again hoping to work with some organizations and get that out there as well.
All right, brilliant. And I wish you well with that. So, but the good news is that you're hiring as well, so the growth is there. And you're hiring, I understand.
Yeah, well, so as I say, we've just come through a phase of development with RGU. It's two organizations, so OSI is not hiring, but what we're looking to do is try and get people on board at Camellia, because you know, Camellia is very much at this stage a research and development organization. You know, we have the systems and the tools there, but we want to elevate that, the gamification, as I say. We want to find different ways of embedding it and integrating it into different types of organizations. So there's definitely room within Camellia at the moment. You know, I am not looking for, what I'm looking for is people who think outside the box. You know, Camellia is not about standard approaches to things. You know, it's very much an organization that is based on the idea of disruptive technologies. You know, how do we change things up? So yeah, we're looking for innovative, clever, bright people who want to do something different, and you know, grow with the organization, grow with Camellia, and there's no telling where that can lead for people.
And so that could include veterans. So people thinking on the feet. This just coming in from Jerry. So Jerry is in charge of the Centre for Military Research at Edinburgh Napier University. So you really ought to get in contact with her. She's a lovely lady, and I'm only saying that because she's watching. But no, very good. I've had a couple of meetups with her, so it really worth having a chat with Jerry. And I'm really pleased that Jerry's jumped on, actually, because you need to get on Veterans Voice. I've got a slot for you in the new year. You just need to say yes. So there you go.
Just got yourself roped in there.
Well, that's it. Yeah, you're busted. So so that's brilliant. So we're about at the end of it. We bumbled across along, and we've managed to get neatly to about a minute to go from the normal half-hour slot. So what would be your Veterans Voice to military leavers? Had you had your time again, what would be your advice?
Well, so there's probably two things for anyone in the forces and considering leaving. I think, you know, again, as I mentioned earlier, having the networks is fantastic. Start to build that network up, visibility, your profile, connect with the organizations that you want to get involved with, but also have a plan, you know, which I didn't have at the time. That plan should be. And in terms of the armed forces itself, so mental health harm prevention is where we're at. We've wanted to do something in terms of how the armed forces can see early signs of PTSD through some of the systems and things that we do. And I think that's where, in terms of the armed forces and leadership, should be thinking about is, you know, we've got a group of fantastic men and women who sacrifice so much. We need to be better at arming them in terms of mental health support, prevention, accessibility, and knowledge, along with all of those other skills that we give people. You know, I remember getting thrown out to Afghanistan, and there wasn't much in terms of, right, how is this going to play with your mind, and how are you going to cope with it, and what do you need to do, and how do you deal with, you know, loneliness and separation and being away from the family. And so I think that's the areas I think that in terms of the armed forces in general, we need to start looking at and improving.
Absolutely. Well, I suggest you speak with Jerry. So just before we go, Dan has said that's what Matt does, ropes you in and you never leave. Yeah. Dan's stuck around since it must be addictive, Dan, or you've got nothing to do in the evening. I'm really pleased actually that the Fenternet, Dan, because Dan lives in the Fens in Lincolnshire, has actually allowed you to join us tonight. And Jerry Matthews Smith says yes. I'm not sure whether that's yes, she's going to come on Veterans Voice, or yes, I need to talk to Brett. So yeah. Let us know that. But yeah, so well done, Brett. Bravo Zulu there. So it just leaves me to say thank you very much, Brett, for joining us for Veterans Voice tonight. Some fantastic stuff you've got on the go, and some fantastic advice there. And thank you very much to everyone for putting their comments in and letting us know that we're not just two blokes talking to each other. Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you very much, Brett. Thank you very much, everybody else. And good night.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks a lot. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.